Chapter 71. Advanced Stage of the Golden Core Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 71. Advanced Stage of the Golden Core Realm. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. To give a simple example, use previous innate bone value was 329. After refining the mysterious power of the dark glacial frost, her innate bone value had increased by 8 points. However, if it had been Yi Xian absorbing the dark glacial frost instead, it would already be a great fortune if he managed to increase his innate bone value by 1 point. Moreover, there was a high possibility that his innate bone value would not change at all. There was no helping it. Yi Xian's innate bone value was too ridiculous, which would result in the effect of the dark glacial frost on him to be greatly reduced. However, if it was a cultivator whose innate bone value was only 20 who was absorbing the dark glacial frost, the increase in their innate bone value should be somewhere between 10 to 20 points. Along with the increase in a cultivator's innate bone value and comprehension value, the effect of these rare spiritual treasures would also decrease. Especially when the cultivator's comprehension and innate bone value reached the critical 500 point mark, the decrease would be even more obvious. Yi Xian could now clearly sense the scattered spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and he could clearly distinguish which areas had the densest spiritual energy. He could even judge based on the degree of the density of spiritual energy, what level of cultivation a place was suitable for. This knowledge and judgment came to him naturally. Other than that, he did not need to take the initiative to cultivate at all. The pores around his body would automatically absorb and refine the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and slowly fuse it into his golden core. In other words, he had reached the point where he could autopilot his cultivation, if he so desired. However, if he chose to cultivate manually, the speed of his cultivation would be even more shocking. Even if he did not rely on the system's reward, and even if he did not continue to refine the medicinal effects of the 7th grade Nirvana pill, he was confident that he could reach the advanced stage of the golden level realm within 10 days. Then, Yi Xian's spiritual sense slowly withdrew from the system space. Before the Qingyun sect competition, you have to increase your strength. You, quickly take out the origin condensing pill from before. I will help you refine it. Yi Xian's gaze fell on you. Alright, teacher. You nodded obediently, and then she took out the origin condensing pill from her spatial storage equipment. This was what Yi Xian had given her previously and, from the reward from the system, Yi Xian had obtained an even more advanced pill, but he had exchanged it for the dark glacial frost with Huang Ling. Moreover, Yi Xian had already understood how to somewhat exploit the system. As long as he helped you refine the medicinal power of the origin condensing pill, he would also be able to obtain a system reward from when Yu's cultivation increased. This could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Immediately, Yi Xian's surging golden core power gushed out, transforming into a gentle power that wrapped around the origin condensing pill. After refining it, it was slowly injected into Yu's body. Ding! As the host has helped his disciple obtain 20 days' worth of cultivation, the host has received a randomized 18x critical reward. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 360 days' worth of cultivation. When you had completely absorbed the medicinal effects of the origin condensing pill, the system's notification suddenly rang out in Yi Xian's mind. As expected. Seeing this, Yi Xian could not help but smile. His guess was indeed correct. With Yi Xian's help, you managed to perfectly absorb the medicinal effects of the origin condensing pill, and had advanced to the 6th level of the truth essence realm. I'm still half a step away from breaking through myself. Yi Xian examined his own cultivation level and then murmured. Although he had gained 360 days' worth of cultivation, the increase was not that significant. After all, the cultivation boost reward he obtained was calculated according to Yu's cultivation speed and not his own. This was completely opposite to the effect of spiritual power infusion. The cultivation obtained through spiritual power infusion was calculated according to Yi Xian's own cultivation speed. Although Yu's innate bone value was not low, she was still only a truth essence realm cultivator. Even if she trained hard for a year, it was only equivalent to 3 or 4 days' worth of Yi Xian's secluded cultivation. After all, Yi Xian's innate bone value had exceeded 500. Qin Yan, it's your turn. Yi Xian's gaze fell on Li Qinyan next, motioning for the latter to take out the pill he had given her. Seeing this, Li Qinyan was startled. Could it be that her teacher was going to help her raise her cultivation level again? Was this not a little too fast? How did I manage to meet such a good teacher? Am I allowed to fall in love with him? Li Qinyan immediately revealed a sweet smile, and then she took out the pill that Yi Xian had given her earlier. Ding! As the host has helped his disciple obtain 35 days' worth of cultivation, the host has randomized 15x critical reward. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 525 days' worth of cultivation. Boom! As soon as the system notification ended, Yi Xian's body suddenly shook, and the aura in his dantian swept out like waves. Originally, he had only been half a step away from the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm. Now that he had obtained 525 days' worth of cultivation, he naturally reached into the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm. Teacher. Seeing this, Yu and Li Qinyan were shocked. This terrifying aura, could it be that teacher had broken through again? Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that. While helping you to increase your cultivation levels, I also gained some insights and advanced a minor realm. Today is really a good day. Triple happiness. Looking at his two shocked disciples, Yi Xian made up nonsense to cover his tracks. What did he mean by having gained some insights and advancing a minor realm? Was this something that a normal person could do? However, Yu and Li Qinyan did not question Yi Xian's words. After all, in their eyes, their teacher's words represented absolute truth. Then, Yi Xian waved his sleeve, and the surging aura was immediately drawn back into his body. I almost forgot about the aura concealing technique. Suddenly, Yi Xian rubbed his forehead after remembering something important. When he had taught you the qi storage technique earlier, he had obtained the aura concealing technique through the system's reward, but he had yet to teach it to Li Qinyan. Qinyan, I will now teach you a secret technique that can help you conceal your aura. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Xian stretched out his hand and gently pointed his finger between Li Qinyan's eyebrows. The aura concealing technique was transmitted into her mind. Ding! As the host has imparted the aura concealing technique to his disciple, the host has received a randomized 20x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the nihility technique. Compared to the aura concealing technique, the nihility technique was undoubtedly of a higher grade. As long as one cultivated it, not only would one be able to perfectly conceal their own aura, but they would also be able to assimilate themselves with their surroundings. In addition, one could also use this secret technique to place one's body in a state of suspended animation. Once one's body fell into a state of suspended animation, the effect of time on one's body would be reduced. To give a simple example, a Golden Core realm cultivator originally only had a lifespan of about 700 years. If that cultivator cultivated the nihility technique, and placed their body into a state of suspended animation, they would be able to live for thousands of years. In other words, after that cultivator woke up, it was very likely that thousands of years would have passed. Of course, it was far more difficult to cultivate the nihility technique compared to the aura concealing technique. However, for Yi Xian, this was not difficult at all. Yi Xian looked at Yu and noticed that the latter was still stabilizing her cultivation. He reached out and gently tapped his finger on the latter's forehead, transmitting the aura concealing technique to her. Chapter 72. Elder Yi is their sparring partner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 72. Elder Yi is their sparring partner. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. However, as he had already taught you the qi storage technique, teaching her the aura concealing technique did not grant him a system reward. Then, after Li Qinyan had almost finished digesting her games, Yi Xian took out the only low-magic spiritual weapon he had, the cold light ice soul sword. Qinyan, I've looked at your weapon. It's too low-grade. I'll give you this low-grade magic weapon, the cold light ice soul sword. As soon as Li Qinyan opened her eyes, she suddenly saw a longsword that exuded a cold aura in front of her. Even though she had already reached the 9th level true essence realm with the help of the pill, she still felt a chill from this longsword. Yes, teacher, wait. Teacher, are you saying that this weapon is a low-grade magic weapon? Li Qinyan was stunned. Oh my god. Did I hear wrong? Is teacher giving me a low-grade magic weapon? Just because my previous weapon was too low-grade. Did he know how valuable a magic weapon was? In the entire Qinyan sect, there was no other cultivator besides Yi Xian who possessed a magic weapon. Most importantly, even the second-ranked Xianin sect did not possess a magic weapon. Most of the weapons used by the top-level core formation realm experts were spiritual weapons. The highest level weapons they had were only top-grade spiritual weapons. Just like the Qinyan sword that Yi Xian had given to you earlier, which was a high-grade spiritual weapon. However, her teacher now wanted to give her a low-grade magic weapon. Just because her previous weapon was too low-grade. With her current strength, could she even unleash the full power of the magic weapon? Teacher, Li Qinyan's eyes turned red. Although she had been shocked by Yi Xian's selfless actions many times since becoming his disciple, she still could not help but be moved at this moment. Did I save an entire world in my previous life to have had the good fortune of becoming his disciple in this life? He was the best kind of teacher. Qinyan, take it. Yi Xian smiled and patted the latter's head. Okay. Li Qinyan wiped the tears away from her slightly red eyes, which were about to fall. Then, she put the cold light ice soul sword into her spatial storage equipment. Ding! As the host has given his disciple the cold light ice soul sword, low-grade magic weapon, the host has received a randomized 20x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the God-slaying sword, middle-grade magic weapon. The God-slaying sword had 7 blood-red lines on it, and it was filled with the power of slaughter. Now I only have to work on her combat experience to get my next system reward. Yi Xian examined the God-slaying sword for a while, and then withdrew his spiritual sense. His gaze then fell on Li Qinyan. Qinyan, today I will be your sparring partner. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Xian did not wait for Li Qinyan to come back to her senses. He waved his sleeve and, in the blink of an eye, he brought Yu and Li Qinyan to the Qinyan sect's training ground. The Qinyan sect's training ground was located at the center of Qinyan Mountain. It was 100,000 square meters in size and extremely large. Moreover, the training ground was covered by an extremely powerful defensive array formation. The sturdiness of this array formation was far greater than the Jiangqing city's training ground. It could even withstand a full-strength attack from a Shudan realm cultivator. Moreover, as the sect competition of the Qinyan sect was around the corner, there were already many Qinyan sect disciples sparring with each other in the training ground. The appearance of Yi Xian and the others immediately attracted the attention of many of the cultivators present. We pay our respects to Elder Yi. Seeing this, the Qinyan sect disciples hurriedly bowed respectfully to Yi Xian. Their gazes fell on Yi Xian, and their eyes were filled with fervor. This was the strongest genius of the great Qian dynasty, an expert who had reached the Shudan realm at the age of 20. These young cultivators were all proud to be in the same sect as him. However, when everyone's eyes fell on Yu and Li Qinyan, they were shocked. Not only were the two women beautiful, but their demeanor was even more stunning. As they walked alongside Yi Xian, it was as if they had emerged from a painting. Are they the disciples that Elder Yi took in? Those two women are really lucky. I wish I had the opportunity to become Elder Ye's disciple. It is said that Elder Ye's first disciple was just an ordinary handyman disciple. I don't know how or why she managed to become Elder Ye's disciple. Stop spouting nonsense. Why are some people so lucky? It feels like you're spouting nonsense. Are you certain that she really was an ordinary handyman disciple? She looks like a fairy, extraordinary and otherworldly. I've never seen such a beautiful woman in my life. Why did I not notice her before? It said that she was only in the refinement realm before this. With the help of Elder Yi, she completely awakened her potential and her cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. I don't know what cultivation level she's reached now. At that moment, everyone's attention was focused on you, their eyes filled with envy. The cultivators who were originally sparring in the training ground took the initiative to make way for them. Yi Xian then suppressed his cultivation to the 9th level of the true essence realm. He reached out and grabbed an ordinary bronze sword from the training ground's equipment storage area. You and Qin Yan should also attack together. Yi Xian held the bronze sword and looked at his disciples. Although he had already gained a lot of combat experience from you, if she worked together with Li Qin Yan, he might be able to get an additional reward from sparring with her. Moreover, if the two of them worked together, it would also improve the tacit understanding between them. Yes, teacher, Noel Varenyu nodded her head obediently. The storage ring in her hand flashed with a stream of light, and the Qin Yun sword was suddenly unsheathed. Oh my God! Elder Yi is actually sparring with them. Aren't they too lucky? I really can't stand it anymore. Where can I find such a handsome and powerful sparring partner? I wish I could also become Elder Ye's disciple, then I would also be able to enjoy such treatment. Elder Yi, quickly look at me and see if I have any special physique. Quickly come and discover me. At this moment, everyone was envious, so envious that they were almost drooling. An elder of the Qingyun sect was actually sparring with his disciples. Although this was not entirely too rare, since it was Yi Xian, things were different. Chapter 73. His eye for talent is quite sharp. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 73. His eye for talent is quite sharp. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Previously, Elder Yi was always completely engrossed in cultivation and had no intention of taking in any disciples. Now that he was willing to become his disciple's sparring partner, it was inevitable that they would feel jealous. However, although they were envious, they were even more shocked. Elder Ye's disciples had actually reached the true essence realm, and the true essence power they emitted was extremely powerful. They seemed to be no weaker than the other elder's personal disciples, perhaps even more powerful. Although no one could recognize Li Qin Yan, there were still quite a number of people who knew you. A dozen days ago, you had only been a refinement realm cultivator. How long had it even been? How had she already broken through to the true essence realm? It's fine if her master is monstrous, but how are the disciples also so monstrous? Is the world so unfair? Look at the martial techniques these two girls are displaying. They are so terrifying, and their true essence power is extremely strong. If we were to fight them, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to withstand even one move. They are too strong. Wait. Their strength seems to still be increasing. Could it be that these are using actual combat experience to increase their own combat strength and awareness in battle? My God, just how terrifying are the comprehension values of these two girls? When everyone saw this, they could not help but reveal shocked expressions. It was no wonder they were able to become Elder Ye's disciples. These F*King girls were simply monstrous. In actual combat, they could even adapt to the fight on the fly to improve themselves. Was this something a normal person could do? Normally speaking, if one managed to become an outer sect disciple or an inner sect disciple of the Qingyun sect, that alone was proof that their level of talent was not low. However, when they saw the terrifying speed at which Yu and Li Qinyan improved, they felt powerless. These two girls distorted the definition of geniuses. The Qinyan sect disciples in the training ground were transfixed. As they discussed the battle and the girls among themselves, it immediately attracted the attention of countless other sect members. Wan Shanhai, who was cultivating in a cultivation room, also noticed what was going on in the training ground. He immediately mobilized his vast spiritual sense to examine the situation. When he took a look at the scene that was unfolding in the training ground, he was dumbfounded. F***ck. Why does it feel like I've been cheated? As time passed, the Yu and Li Qinyan's attacks became more and more practiced and accurate, and the true essence power that they were exuding became more and more turbulent. However, their attacks were still easily deflected by Yi Xian. Are this guy's disciples so monstrous? Wan Shanhai was dumbfounded when he saw this scene. He had also heard that Yi Xian had taken in 2 disciples when the latter returned, but he did not think much of it at first. After all, when Yi Xian was seriously injured, from Wan Shanhai's perspective, the reason why Yi Xian had taken Yu in as his disciple back then was very likely because he wanted someone to inherit his mantle. It had only been a few days, but this girl's strength was already so terrifying. Could it be that Yi Xian had used spiritual power infusion? Good heavens! This guy was actually so willing to sacrifice that much. Was he intent on giving his disciple everything? A 6th level True Essence Realm Cultivator. A 9th level True Essence Realm Cultivator. Moreover, their ability to adapt and improve in battle was incredible, and their attacks were as swift as lightning. Even he could not help but exclaim in admiration. Whoosh! Wan Shanhai waved his sleeve, and his figure suddenly appeared in the training ground. Sect Leader. We pay our respects to the sect leader. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. These two had actually caught the sect leader's attention. Wan Shanhai nodded slightly in acknowledgement at the crowd, and then his gaze turned to Yi Xian and the girls. It was obvious that the sect leader had been attracted by the battle between master and disciples. However, as time went by, Wan Shanhai's face became more and more livid. F***ck. I was really cheated. This guy actually trained such monstrously talented disciples behind his back. Although my eldest disciple is not weak, he is definitely not a match for these two. Wan Shanhai sighed when he saw this scene. The eldest disciple he mentioned was called Qin Xiaofeng. He had reached the 8th level of the True Essence Realm, and he was only half a step away from reaching the 9th level of the True Essence Realm. He could be said to be the strongest personal disciple in the Qinyan sect at the moment, and also the eldest senior disciple in everyone's hearts. Wan Shanhai was also very clear about Qin Xiaofeng's strength. He had thought that the young cultivators of the Qinyan sect would not be able to beat him, which was why he was willing to take out the heart-seeking fruit as a reward for the Qinyan sect competition. However, man proposes, God disposes. He had actually overlooked Yi Xian's disciples. The most important thing was that Yi Xian had only taken in these disciples not long ago. How did they suddenly become so monstrous? The true essence power unleashed by Li Qinyan was extremely powerful. Even Qin Xiaofeng might not be able to withstand 10 moves from her. He had been wondering why Yi Xian suddenly had the time to hand out the rewards for the Qinyan sect competition, but now he knew. This was what he had been planning. This guy was obviously worried that I would find out about his disciple's strength, and then take back the heart-seeking fruit, so he wanted to get his hands on those rewards in advance. This guy was too presumptuous. I am the sect leader. How could I do such a thing? I already said that the heart-seeking fruit would be the champion's reward for the Qinyan sect competition, so how could I go back on my words? Still, I am feeling a strange sense of heartache. Although Wan Shanhai was standing still, his heart felt as if it was being trampled on by 10,000 horses. Whoosh! Yi Xian had long noticed Wan Shanhai's arrival. However, he did not care. He continued to spar with Yu and Li Qinyan with the same expression. An incomparably sharp sword qi tore through the void and slashed toward Yi Xian. Seeing this, he calmly raised his bronze sword and easily shattered the attack. Wait, Wan Shanhai saw this scene and was dumbfounded. Could this girl have a sword physique? At the thought of this, Wan Shanhai's eyes widened in shock. Although, unlike Yi Xian, he could not view Yu's details, he was able to confirm that Yu indeed had an extremely rare sword physique. After all, he himself practiced sword qi, and his strength had reached the middle stage of the true core realm. Naturally, he could see from a glance that Yu had a special physique. Such sharp and destructive sword qi was not something that an ordinary 6th level true essence realm cultivator could unleash. Only those with a special physique related to the sword Dao could unleash such sword qi. No wonder this guy wanted to take her as his disciple. Seeing this, Wan Shanhai could not help but reveal a flash of understanding. Gu finally understood why Yi Xian wanted to take Yu in as his disciple. He must have discovered that the latter had a special sword Dao related physique. Good lord, his eye for talent was quite sharp. How was he able to unearth a genius who was born with a special physique? Why did I not notice it back then? When he thought of this, Wan Shanhai was filled with jealousy. If he had discovered Yu's special physique in advance, then this precious disciple would have been his. Chapter 74. Qinyan Sect's Fortuitous Encounter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 74. Qinyan Sect's Fortuitous Encounter. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. As everyone knew, every cultivator with a special physique had a limitless future. Yi Xian had struck gold. No, I still have to pay more attention to the handyman disciples in the future. Who knows, there might be some unpolished gems among them. Wan Shanhai muttered to himself. It seemed that even if Chen Xiaofeng faced this 6th level true essence realm disciple, he might not be able to obtain absolute victory. Thinking this, Wan Shanhai revealed a helpless expression. What was going on in this world? Why were all the supreme geniuses grouping up with each other? Although Yi Xian had suppressed his own cultivation, and on the surface it was indeed a battle between true essence realm cultivators, Wan Shanhai was somehow drawn into the fight. He even felt that he had gained some insights from Yi Xian. What's going on? Wan Shanhai was dumbfounded. He had only wanted to watch the fight, but why had he gained some insights from a battle between true essence realm cultivators? Most importantly, when he mentally simulated a fight between himself and Yi Xian at the same suppressed cultivation level, he discovered that he would not be able to defeat the latter, and would even be beaten quite badly. This was 2F** King ridiculous. At the thought of this, Wan Shanhai was not convinced. He began to mentally simulate the fight again. However, he soon realized that even though he repeated it dozens of times, the result was still the same. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, several streaks of light flew across the sky from not far away. The vice sect leader of the Qinyan sect and the other elders had arrived. Greetings, sect leader. They quickly bowed to Wan Shanhai. However, Wan Shanhai acted as if he had not seen them. He watched the battle between Yi Xian, Yu, and the others with a fascinated look. Sect leader. Seeing this, everyone revealed looks of confusion. Was Elder Yi Xian not just suppressing his own cultivation and sparring with his disciples? What was so special about this? Don't disturb me. Wan Shanhai glared at the vice sect leader and the others, and then turned his attention back to the fight again. Seeing this, everyone felt helpless. They then followed Wan Shanhai's gaze and looked over. They had only come over after they had noticed the commotion at the training ground. Moreover, countless cultivators had already gathered around Yi Xian, Yu, and Li Qinyan. With the addition of the vice sect leader and the elders, almost all the cultivators of the Qinyan sect had come. Such a lively and crowded atmosphere was similar to the atmosphere during the Qingyun sect's previous competitions. The vice sect leader and the elders had only wanted to come and watch the fun, but when their gazes fell on the battle between Yi Xian, Yu, and Li Qinyan, they were shocked. Just like Wan Shanhai, they also started gaining insights from this battle. Ednel.co in particular, from the moves that Yi Xian used. He had obviously deliberately suppressed his cultivation to the 5th level of the true essence realm. Holding a very ordinary bronze sword, he easily blocked the full strength attacks of Yu and Li Qinyan. However, what shocked them the most was that Yi Xian did not rely on true essence power to do so, but rather on his mastery of the moves themselves. Yi Xian had almost perfectly integrated the sword intent he had comprehended into his moves, which was why Wan Shanhai and the others could not take their eyes off the fight. Seeing this, many of the Qingyun sect cultivators also came to a realization, and they were all glued to the fight. All they focused on was the scene of Yi Xian sparring with his disciples. The attacks of these three people were overwhelmingly powerful, and their surroundings were filled with sword qi. Yi Xian's attacks were especially awe-inspiring. His casual sword strikes contained mysterious sword intent, seemingly showing the way forward. An opportunity. This was clearly an opportunity given by Yi Xian, an opportunity given to the Qingyun sect. Anyone from the Qingyun sect, regardless of their status or cultivation level, could watch and comprehend. Of course, how much they would obtain from their comprehension depended on their own talent and luck. Suddenly, Wan Shanhai's body suddenly trembled, and a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Seeing this, the vice sect leader and elders could not help but narrow their eyes. This power seems to be sword intent. Sect leader. Did you successfully comprehend sword intent? Seeing this scene, the elders could not help but be shocked. Yi Xian, who was still sparring with his disciples, revealed a smile. It seemed that the sect leader's comprehension ability was quite good. He was actually able to use Yi Xian's sword intent to comprehend his own sword intent. Alright, that's it for today. You all should go back and digest your gains. As soon as he finished speaking, the bronze sword in Yi Xian's hand turned into a stream of light and returned to the training grounds equipment storage area. At the same time, Yu and Li Qinyan also stopped attacking. Both looked like they were out of breath, and sweat was dripping from their foreheads. Ding! As the host has accompanied his disciples through 10 actual battles, the host has received a randomized 7x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained combat experience from undergoing 70 actual battles. As the system's notification rang out, Yi Xian had gained a lot of valuable practical combat experience out of thin air. Through this sparring session, Li Qingyan's strength had greatly increased, but in comparison, Yu's gains were more substantial. After all, Yu had already awakened the sword jade physique, which was an extremely rare sword physique. Yi Xian's sword intent was undoubtedly incredibly useful to her. Suddenly, a white torrent suddenly swept across the entire training ground. The torrent contained soaring sword qi. Seeing this, many cultivators could not help but tremble. They felt their hearts palpitate, but then suddenly awoke from their dazed state. In the presence of this invisible sword qi, their skin started to sting. Of course, this was all an illusion. At the same time, a hearty laughter resounded throughout the surroundings. Wan Shanhai could not suppress the wild joy in his heart. He threw his head back and laughed loudly. This was sword intent. He had actually comprehended the extremely rare and legendary sword intent. He was originally a sword Dao genius, but unfortunately, he had already been stuck at the embryonic form of sword intent for almost 10 years, and had never been able to break through the shackles that held him back. However, just now, when he saw Yi Xian's sword intent, the fog clouding his heart suddenly cleared up. His surging sword qi broke through the shackles and he successfully comprehended sword intent. At this moment, his mind was clear. It was like he embodied the sword intent itself. Congratulations to the sect leader for comprehending sword intent. Seeing this, the elders were also overjoyed and went forward to congratulate him. Wan Shanhai's comprehension of sword intent meant that the overall strength of the Qingyun sect had also increased by a lot. Chapter 75. Sparring with your disciples. I can do that too. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 75. Sparring with your disciples. I can do that too. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Seeing this, the Qingyun sect disciples finally realized that their sect leader had comprehended sword intent. Congratulations to the sect leader for comprehending sword intent. Immediately, the congratulatory voices were like thunder, resounding across the entire mountain. To them, comprehending sword intent was an unattainable achievement. They knew very well that this was something that countless sword Dao cultivators dreamed of. Since the founding of the Great Qian dynasty, there had been many talented sword geniuses, but most of them were stuck at the threshold of comprehending sword intent. Legend had it that only by successfully comprehending sword intent could a sword Dao cultivator step onto the true path of sword Dao cultivation. Yi Xian, you really know how to hide things. Wan Shanhai's gaze fell on Yi Xian, and he looked at him with a strange expression. If Yi Xian had not taken the initiative to display his sword intent, he would not have known the realm of sword intent that Yi Xian had already comprehended. At the beginning, he only felt that Yi Xian's moves were filled with some sort of special mysterious power, which faintly resonated with the power of heaven and earth. It was not until he successfully comprehended sword intent that he realized Yi Xian's attainments in the comprehension of sword intent. The most crucial thing was that the sword intent that Yi Xian displayed was natural and free. Flowing, without the slightest bit of awkwardness. It was obvious that the other party had not just comprehended sword intent. Could it be that this guy's attainments in sword intent had reached the second level, or perhaps even higher? Although Wan Shanhai was extremely curious about this, he knew that such matters were best kept secret. I was just lucky. Yi Xian smiled. Lucky. You are the strongest genius of the Great Qian dynasty. You are also an unprecedented genius of the Qingyun sect. Geniuses should be like this. Wan Shanhai said loudly. He was very happy now. What was a mere heart-seeking fruit compared to the successful comprehension of sword intent? Still, I have to thank you. If you hadn't deliberately showed off your sword intent just now, I don't know when I would have been able to cross that threshold and comprehend sword intent. Wan Shanhai cupped his fists at Yi Xian and thanked him, his heart filled with gratitude. Although his comprehension of sword intent was closely related to his own foundation of sword Dao cultivation, Yi Xian was the catalyst. In other words, in terms of sword intent, Yi Xian was equivalent to his teacher. Therefore, Wan Shanhai's gratitude toward Yi Xian was sincere. Seeing this, many of the Qingyun sect cultivators were dumbfounded. They had not expected that the reason why the sect leader had been able to comprehend sword intent was actually due to Elder Yi. Did that mean that Elder Yi's attainments in sword intent had reached an extremely terrifying level? They were all humans, so why was there such a huge gap between them and him? Could it be that Elder Yi's cultivation had already reached the same level as the sect leaders? All sorts of thoughts flashed through everyone's minds. Their gazes fell on Yi Xian, and their eyes were filled with fervor. Moreover, the effect of Yi Xian's display of sword intent was quite obvious. Not only had Wan Shanhai comprehended sword intent, but the other cultivators had also gained a lot. Many cultivators who were stuck in their cultivation of sword Dao were suddenly enlightened and gained a new understanding of sword Qi and their own cultivation. It could be said that any cultivator who witnessed Yi Xian's sword intent display with their own eyes had gained something. Elder Yi is too amazing. Everyone's hearts were filled with admiration and gratitude for Yi Xian. Yi Xian's actions just now were undoubtedly meant for them. He had displayed his own sword intent to enlighten everyone from the Qingyun sect. This was not something that any of the past elders could do. Seeing this, Lin Qing, who was beside him, looked at Yi Xian with a complicated expression. Half a month ago, her cultivation level had been the same as Yi Xian. They were both cultivators at the middle stage of the Shudan stage. However, over this half a month, her cultivation had not made any progress at all. On the other hand, Yi Xian had already reached a level that she could not see through at all. When she learned about Yi Xian's deeds from Huang Ling and Xue Min, her heart was even more shocked. They told her that Yi Xian had refined the dark glacial frost extremely quickly, and that they had also sensed Yi Xian's terrifying spiritual pressure. If what Huang Ling and Xue Min said was true, then Yi Xian had very likely reached the Golden Core realm. Throughout the entire Great Qian dynasty, there were very few Golden Core realm cultivators, and Golden Core realm cultivators that had comprehended sword intent were even more unprecedented. Lin Qing wondered if the sect leader was aware of this. Lin Qing took a deep breath, her heart was filled with shock. She did not expect that the youth who had followed behind her and humbly asked for guidance on the sword Dao back then had already grown to such a level. In the blink of an eye, he had already left her far behind. For a moment, Lin Qing's heart was filled with all kinds of thoughts, and she felt slightly uncomfortable. Of course, this was not because she was jealous of Yi Xian's strength, but rather because Yi Xian's talent was too monstrous. She felt suppressed by his talent. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed. He also noticed the change in Lin Qing's expression. He glanced at the latter and did not say much. Lin Qing was more than 10 years older than him. Even so, in the eyes of core formation realm cultivators, she was still extremely young. Yi Xian also knew how Lin Qing felt about him, but, at the moment, he did not have such thoughts of discussing the matter. Let's go back. Yi Xian then took Yu and Li Qinyan and left. In 5 days, the Qingyun sect competition. All Qingyun sect disciples can participate. The voice of Wan Shanhai resounded across the mountain. Then, in a flash, he suddenly disappeared from the training ground. The vice sect leader and the other elders also left one after another. When they witnessed Yi Xian's sword intent, they had also gained some insights and hurriedly went back to digest them. Lingzhou Peak. After Yu and Li Qinyan returned, they also chose to enter secluded cultivation to properly comprehend and consolidate today's gains. Now that the sect competition was about to commence, they had to seize every possible moment to improve their strength so that they could live up to their teacher's expectations. After returning, Wan Shanhai also called his disciple over. He planned to follow Yi Xian's example and act as a sparring partner for his disciple, striving to improve his disciple's strength before the sect competition commenced. However, in order to prevent the other elders from making fun of him for imitating Yi Xian, Wan Shanhai cleverly brought his disciple to a place in the wilderness and then began his sparring session. He also suppressed his own cultivation and held a bronze sword in his hand. Chapter 76. I will not let teacher down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 76. I will not let teacher down. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. However, Wan Shanhai soon felt that something was wrong. Even though his sword intent had reached the first level, he could not fight with his disciples with such ease. Compared to Li Qinyan and Yu, his disciples were completely tied up and beaten. Even though his disciples sparred with him many times, their actual combat ability improved very slowly. After half a day, there were indeed some disciples whose strength had improved, but the margin of improvement was very small. Forget it. The results aren't that good. Seeing this, Wan Shanhai could not help but sigh deeply. Yi Xian was not only a monster, but his disciples were too. He could not be compared to Yi Xian, and his disciples could not be compared to Yu and Li Qinyan either. What could he do? How could he compete? Time flew by, and soon 5 days had passed. There were a total of 20,000 Qinyan sect cultivators gathered on the Qinyan mountain to participate in the sect competition. The sect competition would last a total of 3 days. It was a competition between outer sect disciples, inner sect disciples, and personal disciples. Among these groups, the number of outer sect disciples was the largest, followed by inner sect disciples and personal disciples. If one ranked top 10 among the outer sect disciples, he or she would be qualified to challenge the inner sect disciples. If the challenge was successful, he or she could become an inner disciple. At the same time, the challenge rules for inner sect disciples were the same. However, whether or not one could truly become a personal disciple depended on whether the sect leader, vice sect leader, or one of the elders favored the successful challenger. If the cultivator possessed outstanding talent, there was a high chance that he or she could become a disciple of an elder. Most of the outer sect disciples were Qi transformation realm cultivators, and only a very small number had reached the true essence realm. A day passed, and the outer sect disciples competition round ended. Among the top 10 outer sect disciples, 3 had reached the true essence realm, but most of them were at the first level of the true essence realm. Although inner sect disciples were generally stronger than outer sect disciples, there were still some inner sect disciples who were only Qi transformation realm cultivators, albeit high-level ones. Among them, many had reached the third level of the true essence realm. The strongest inner sect disciple had broken through to the fourth level of the true essence realm. The second round of the competition also ended uneventfully. The elders had already listed out the rankings. Soon, it was the third day. The competition between personal disciples would happen today. Compared to the first 2 rounds, the personal disciples participating in the competition were undoubtedly the elites among the elites. The cultivator with the lowest cultivation realm was a 4th level true essence realm cultivator. These few days, Yi Xian had also been watching the competition to see if he could find any cultivators that possessed a special physique. However, to his disappointment, there was no one else in the sect who had a special physique. There were a total of 22 personal disciples, which included those under the sect leader, vice sect leader and the 5 elders. They were also the most powerful and famous of the 20,000 cultivators. Among them, the most famous were Yu and Li Qinyan, whom Yi Xian had taken in. Many cultivators had come to watch Yu and Li Qinyan fight. After all, not only were they devastatingly beautiful, but also extremely powerful. This much was apparent from the sparring session at the training ground 5 days ago. Yu and Li Qinyan also did not disappoint Yi Xian. They had won all their fights, and could be said to have crushed the other personal disciples. Why is Yu's strength getting more and more terrifying? Lin Qing, who was sitting cross-legged in the elder's seat, was speechless when she saw how the competition progressed. Although Yu's cultivation had not broken through, her sword qi had become extremely sharp. Cultivators below the 7th level of the true essence realm could not even withstand one of her attacks. Even the beloved disciple of the first elder, the disciple whose cultivation had reached the peak of the 7th level of the true essence realm, had only lasted 10 moves against you. This is the strength of someone with a sword physique. Wan Shanhai saw this scene and said with a smile. The sword jade physique that you had awakened was a rare sword physique, which greatly improved her physical capabilities and reflexes. Coupled with the Qingyun sword that Yi Xian had given her, even Chen Xiaofeng might not be able to defeat her. Thinking this, Wan Shanhai's heart was filled with envy. Yi Xian was not only a monster, but his disciples were also becoming more and more monstrous. I lost. Junior sister is indeed powerful. After the beloved disciple of the first elder was sent flying by Yu's sword, he climbed up from the ground with difficulty. Feeling the erratic spiritual power churning inside his body, he could not help but smile bitterly. The strength that Yu displayed was too shocking, just like her fairy-like appearance. She seemed like a towering mountain, lofty and unattainable. I admit defeat. At the same time, on another arena platform, Xue Min also directly admitted defeat. It could not be helped. She had encountered Li Qinyan this round. Had it been any of the other personal disciples, she might have been able to fight and win, but she did not have the slightest desire or confidence to fight Li Qinyan. Looking at Li Qinyan, Xue Min felt that everything was like a dream. A few days ago, Li Qinyan had just been a low-level Qi transformation realm cultivator. How many days had passed since then? She was now able to force her to admit defeat just based on the difference in their cultivation levels. Suddenly, she was overcome by self-pity and sadness. Why did I not end up with such a good teacher? Those two senior sisters are so strong. Yes, yes. Elder Ye's disciples are different. They are both monstrously strong. When the spectating disciples saw the fights unfold, they could not help but cry out in excitement. One after another, they turned into little fanboys. There was no helping it. Who could resist and not admire women who were beautiful enough to topple nations, and strong enough to bring down cities? If only Elder Yi was also my teacher. How great would that be? At the same time, their hearts were filled with envy, especially after learning about Yu's origins. They could not help but fantasize in their hearts. Perhaps they too were another unpolished diamond waiting to be found. However, every time someone had such a fantasy in their hearts, their friends around them would poke fun at them and bring them back to reality. The crowd was not only immersed in the beauty of Li Qinyan and Yu, but they were also deeply shocked by their strength. Soon, the competition reached the crucial stage. This round of combat was between Li Qinyan and Chen Xiaofeng. When the crowd saw this, they narrowed their eyes in excitement. This would probably be the most exciting match in this third round. Hello, junior sister Qinyan. Chen Xiaofeng cupped his fists toward Li Qinyan like a gentleman. Greetings, senior brother Chen. Li Qinyan cupped her fists politely as well. Everyone said that junior sister Li and junior sister Yu's levels of talent are extremely monstrous. They even called the two of you the strongest cultivators of the younger generation in our Qinyan sect. However, as the eldest senior brother of the Qinyan sect, I have experienced some ups and downs, and I will not be affected by these rumors. So, junior sister, be careful. I will not hold back. As soon as he finished speaking, a golden light flashed across Chen Xiaofeng's eyes, and his aura turned fierce. The surging true essence power in his body swept out. Peak 8th level true essence realm. What greeted Chen Xiaofeng was Li Qinyan's long sword. Since she had promised her teacher that she would take home the championship, then she would definitely not let her teacher down. Chapter 77. The Power of the Windstorm / You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 77. The Power of the Windstorm / Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The long sword in Li Qinyan's hand shone with a sharp gleam, and a surging true essence power swept out. 9th level True Essence Realm. Good. When he sensed the powerful aura emanating from Li Qinyan's body, not only did Chen Xiaofeng not panic at all, he even revealed a smile. Only then can we be considered evenly matched. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura around Chen Xiaofeng's body became stronger once again. 9th level True Essence Realm. When everyone saw this, they could not help but stare with widened eyes. Their eyes were filled with shock. So powerful. What cultivation realm have these two reached? Some of the cultivators with lower cultivation levels were puzzled and had to ask. They have reached the 9th level of the True Essence realm. Senior brother Chen Xiaofeng and senior sister Li Qinyan have both reached the 9th level of the True Essence realm. Some cultivators explained patiently, but their eyes were solemn as they watched the fight. My God, they have actually reached the 9th level of the True Essence realm. As expected of our Qinyan sect's eldest senior brother, his strength is indeed extraordinary. Since the two are evenly matched in terms of cultivation level, it seems that this battle will be interesting to watch. Previously, I thought that senior sister Li Qinyan had a higher chance of winning, but now the outcome of the battle between these two is hard to predict. Many cultivators began to discuss the battle enthusiastically. After watching a few of Yu's and Li Qingyan's battles, everyone had gained a certain level of understanding of their strength. In the same realm, the strength of these two disciples far exceeded that of ordinary cultivators. Even the talented personal disciples were crushed. This was especially true for Yu. Her sword qi was extremely powerful and contained potent destructive power. Although she was only at the 6th level of the True Essence realm, she could easily defeat a 7th level True Essence realm personal disciple. In the entire Qinyan sect, only Chen Xiaofeng was able to suppress her. Now, Chen Xiaofeng's strength had improved again, and he was now on par with Li Qingyan in terms of cultivation level. As for who was stronger and who was weaker, the battle would answer that question. As the sect leader's eldest disciple, Chen Xiaofeng's strength and cultivation level had always been far above the other personal disciples. He was also the eldest senior brother of the Qinyan sect. Once everyone saw Chen Xiaofeng's breakthrough, they were excited. Eldest senior brother, go for it. Within the Qinyan sect, Chen Xiaofeng's prestige was still quite high. Therefore, many supporters were already cheering for him excitedly. However, in comparison, there were undoubtedly more people who supported Li Qingyan. After all, no matter what era it was, those with good looks would always be more popular. Moreover, Li Qingyan was so powerful, so naturally, she easily gained a group of little fans. Yu was the same. Senior sister Li, you have to work hard. Beat eldest senior brother into pulp for us. The cultivators watching the battle immediately turned into fanboys and fangirls and shouted excitedly. Most of them were older than Li Qingyan, but in the Tian Yuan continent, status was determined according to the identity of the disciple and their strength. Although Li Qingyan had just become Yi Xian's disciple, according to the rules of the Qinyan sect, other than personal disciples, the rest of the disciples had to call her senior sister. Junior sister, please draw your sword. Chen Xiaofeng smiled faintly and pointed his sword at Li Qingyan. As the eldest senior brother of the Qinyan sect, he had absolute confidence in himself. After all, he was far ahead of the other personal disciples. Of course, this did not include Li Qingyan, who had suddenly appeared as a variable. Because his own strength far surpassed the other personal disciples, Chen Xiaofeng naturally developed an aura of invincibility. Although his teacher said that Li Qingyan was extremely strong, he did not believe it. After all, one's strength did not depend on the words of others, nor did it depend on one's own evaluation, but depended on the richness of one's true essence power, and one's combat ability. They were both at the 9th level of the true essence realm. How could he cower before the fight? Even if Li Qingyan was elder Yi Xian's disciple, she was still not elder Yi Xian himself. Therefore, Chen Xiaofeng chose to retain his gentlemanly disposition. Ladies first. Senior brother, in that case, junior sister will attack first. Li Qingyan did not hesitate, and with a light leap, her figure suddenly turned into an afterimage as she rushed towards the other party. Since she had promised her teacher that she would take home the championship, then she should give it her all. I, Li Qingyan, had the good karma to become my teacher's disciple in this life. I will never forget teacher's kindness, so I should spend my whole life repaying teacher's kindness. My life belongs to teacher. Teacher's words, to me, are like an imperial edict. Even if the words were said casually, I will not ignore them. Since teacher wants me to win the championship, then I, Li Qingyan, will do my best to win. Thinking this, Li Qingyan's gaze became more determined than ever. Ever since she met Yi Xian in Jiaohe City, her life had changed. The Li family had faced a desperate situation, and just when they were about to sacrifice her happiness, her teacher appeared. The young man with a smile as bright as the sun brought her out of the darkness with a gentle gaze. Then, he took her in as his disciple and taught her high-level cultivation methods and martial techniques without any hesitation. The scenes of the past flashed through Li Qingyan's mind. She then entered a strange state of enlightenment, and insight started filling her mind. The next second, the true essence power in her body surged out and enveloped Li Qingyan. The power that was emitting a bright light was slowly imbued into the longsword. In an instant, the tip of the sword started vibrating. It was as if a violent beast was quietly awakening. Immediately, Li Qingyan's unfocused eyes, which were emitting a bright light, landed on Chen Xiaofeng, who was not far away. The long sword in her hand suddenly slashed down. Sword chi burst forth and created waves as it traveled forward. Cracks immediately appeared on the extremely tough arena platform, and it suddenly shattered. This power, seeing this, the elders were shocked. Wan Shanhai abruptly stood up, his eyes were full of shock. Windstorm slash, high. Grade black. Rank. Seeing this, a hint of surprise appeared on Yi Xian's face. He had not expected Li Qingyan to actually comprehend the true essence of the windstorm slash in this fight. Although she was only a 9th level true essence realm cultivator, augmented by the windstorm slash, the power she unleashed was no weaker than that of a purple spirit realm cultivator. Boom! The hurricane-like strike, which was filled with destructive power, surged forward and swept toward Chen Xiaofeng. What? Seeing this, Chen Xiaofeng's facial expression changed greatly. Seeing this overwhelming hurricane, he actually felt his heart palpitate violently. When the hurricane was about to land on Chen Xiaofeng's body, a bright golden light suddenly flashed, and a huge palm crushed the hurricane. It was Yi Xian. If he did not make a move, Chen Xiaofeng would have to use the trump card that Wan Shanhai had left for him to protect himself. However, if he did not use it in time, it was very likely that the windstorm slash would kill him. When Chen Xiaofeng came back to his senses, his eyes were glazed over. He was completely stunned, and his face became extremely pale. He had lost. Completely lost. Chapter 78. The Joy of Free Stuff. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 78. The Joy of Free Stuff. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The arena fell deathly silent. One could hear a pin drop. When the crowd saw the sword chi hurricane, they were all stunned. Beads of sweat kept falling from their foreheads. They sensed the dreadful power of that strike. They could also clearly see the change in Chen Xiaofeng's expression. His originally confident smile turned into pale fear. Everyone knew that if Yi Xian had not made a move, Chen Xiaofeng would have most likely fallen to this strike. I lost. After a long time, Chen Xiaofeng muttered dazedly, breaking the silence around the arena. He collapsed on the ground. His arms felt powerless, and his long sword fell onto the arena platform. His eyes were vacant. He had originally been filled with absolute confidence that he would defeat Li Qingyan. After all, they were both 9th level true essence realm cultivators. Even if there was a difference in their innate talent, he would not be defeated so badly. However, when he saw Li Qingyan unleash the windstorm slash, he suddenly understood that the difference between them was like a natural chasm that could not be crossed. With just one strike, the opponent could kill him. Teacher. Seeing this, Li Qingyan's expression also changed, and she was somewhat at a loss. She also did not expect to comprehend the true essence of the windstorm slash in battle, and that it would unleash such terrifying power. Although she wanted to win because of Yi Xian, she did not have any intention of killing Chen Xiaofeng. However, when she performed that strike, she had been immersed in a state of comprehension, and her memories amplified her desire to win even further. This was why Li Qingyan had unleashed such a powerful windstorm slash. Don't worry about it. Yi Xian waved his sleeve and then came over to Li Qingyan's side. He patted the latter's head and comforted her gently with his eyes. Everyone could see that Li Qingyan had not done it on purpose, so they naturally would not blame her. Moreover, this was the territory of the sect. The sect leader and the elders were all present. There was no way they would sit back and watch a tragedy unfold. Even if Yi Xian had not made a move, the sect leader or other elders would have intervened. Feeling the warmth of her teacher, the panic in Li Qingyan's heart dissipated a little. She heaved a sigh of relief. Sigh. Wan Shanhai sighed when he saw this scene. She was truly a monster. Although her talent was not as good as Yi Xian himself, she had already surpassed most cultivators. Moreover, she was actually able to comprehend the true essence of that martial technique in battle. Although he did not know what martial technique Li Qingyan was using, from the looks of it, it seemed to be very similar to the Qingyun sect's windstorm sword technique, but its power was much greater. His disciple's confidence was probably going to suffer a huge blow. However, this was also good. If one's path of cultivation was too smooth, it might not be a good thing. A real rainbow would only shine after experiencing wind and rain. Hopefully, this little disciple of his would allow this experience to temper him. Is the final fight still going to go on? Immediately, Wan Shanhai's gaze fell on Li Qingyan and Yu. After Chen Xiaofeng's defeat, only Yu and Li Qingyan were left in contention for the championship. The other personal disciples were all defeated by these two. There's no need for that. Yi Xian waved his hand with a smile. There was no need to guess the result anymore. Although you had the advantage of her sword jade physique, and was probably stronger than Chen Xiaofeng if she tried her best, she was definitely no match for Li Qingyan who had comprehended the windstorm slash. Therefore, the ranking was obvious. Number 1. Li Qingyan. Number 2. Yu. Number 3. Chen Xiaofeng. The sect leader and the elders had no problem with the rankings of the third round of the competition. They were the top-tier core formation realm experts, so they had a clear judgment of the combat strength of these true essence realm cultivators. The ranking was fair and just. Wan Shanhai and the elders knew very well that even if Li Qingyan had not comprehended the windstorm slash, Chen Xiaofeng was definitely not her match. However, Chen Xiaofeng was too confident and insisted on challenging Li Qingyan. The result of such overconfidence was obvious. After the rankings of the Qingyun sect competition were determined, it was time to distribute the rewards. Yi Xian was in charge of the top 3 rewards, so naturally, he was the one to distribute them. Of course, there were also rewards for the 4th to 10th ranks, but they were much more ordinary compared to the top 3, and they were awarded by the sect leader. Ding! As the host has given his disciple the heart-seeking fruit, the host has received a randomized 30x critical reward. Congratulations! You have obtained the heart meditation fruit. When Yi Xian gave the heart-seeking fruit to Li Qingyan, the system's notification immediately rang out in his mind. At the same time, a spiritual fruit filled with mysterious power suddenly appeared in the system's storage space. The joy of receiving free gifts. Hee. Yi Xian's expression remained the same, but inwardly, he was so excited that he almost jumped up with joy. He was just a middleman who was giving the heart-seeking fruit to his disciple on behalf of the sect, but he had received a reward from the system. This was practically a gift that fell from the sky. Then, Yi Xian gave the origin condensing pill to you. However, he did not receive a reward from the system because of this. After all, he had already used the origin condensing pill on you once. Finally, he gave Chen Xiaofeng, who was in low spirits, the Shuiqing sword. Chen Xiaofeng's gaze fell on the Shuiqing sword and he fell silent. He felt as if there was an inexplicable knot in his heart. Elder Yi Xian was already a monstrous existence, a young prodigy who had suppressed an era. Now, was his disciple going to repeat his legendary feats? It was really sad to be born in the same era as such a monstrous genius. At this moment, Chen Xiaofeng's heart was filled with a sense of powerlessness. This sense of powerlessness came from the depths of his heart. Then, the sect competition continued. The inner sect disciples who ranked in the top 10 would have the right to challenge the personal disciples. However, the personal disciples were no doubt the disciples of the sect leader or elders. Their strength was no small matter. Although they were beaten up by Yu and Li Qinyan, it did not mean that the inner sect disciples were not qualified to be their opponents. Although there were indeed many dark horses in this year's sect competition, there was still a strength gap between the inner sect disciples and the personal disciples. No one succeeded in challenging them. In 17 days, the direct disciples who ranked in the top 10 of the sect competition will be the representatives of our Qinyan sect and participate in the competition between the three great sections. Moreover, the competition between the three great sects will be held in our Qinyan sect's territory. After Wan Shanhai announced the competition between the three great sects, the Qinyan sect competition officially ended. Chapter 79. Going to cram school before you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 79. Going to cram school before teaching disciples translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The previous two competitions between the three great sects were held in the Huoye sect and the Shinshan sect's territories respectively. Hence, it was the Qinyan sect's turn to host this year's competition. Many Qinyan sect cultivators were also looking forward to this. In the Great Qian dynasty, the Qinyan sect, the Huoye sect, and the Shinshan sect were among the top 10 sections. The Shinshan sect was ranked 8th, the Huoye sect was ranked 9th, and the Qinyan sect was ranked 10th. Compared to the other two great sects, the Qinyan sect's strength was undoubtedly much weaker. It was also because of this that the Qinyan sect cultivators did not obtain good results in the previous competition between the great sections. However, things were different this time around. Now that the Azure Cloud sect had the two freaks, Li Qinyan and Yu, they might be able to create an upset in the competition between the great sections. They were placing their hopes on Li Qinyan. Her windstorm slash was comparable to a full strength attack of a purple spirit realm cultivator. Although there was no guarantee of winning first place, given Yu and Li Qinyan's strength, they would at least secure one of the top 3 ranks. Those ranks would no longer be completely occupied by disciples of the other sections. Not long after, Yi Xian brought Li Qinyan and Yu back to Lingjiu Peak. As soon as they arrived at the main hall, Yi Xian took out the heart meditation fruit. He still had a chance to earn free rewards, so how could he waste it? Qinyan has already obtained the heart-seeking fruit. Now, I will bestow this heart meditation fruit to you. Then, Yi Xian waved his sleeve, and a stream of light suddenly landed in Yu's palm. Ding! As the host has given his disciple the heart meditation fruit, the host has received a randomized 25x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the spirit-absorbing flower. The system's notification suddenly rang out in Yi Xian's mind and, at the same time, a flower exuding faint white energy appeared out of thin air in the system's storage space. When Yi Xian's gaze fell on the spirit-absorbing flower, he suddenly felt absent-minded. He seemed to hear some strange music that captivated one's mind. This thing is extraordinary. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. After examining it for a moment, he withdrew his spiritual sense. Today, I will help you refine the heart-seeking fruit and the heart meditation fruit. Then, Yi Xian brought the two girls to the cultivation room in the main hall. Just like how he had refined the dark glacial frost and the mountain chalcedony, he played a supporting role throughout the whole refining and absorption process. It seemed that due to the rarity of these spiritual treasures, even with Yi Xian's assistance, the two girls only managed to absorb 90% of their effects. What a waste! Seeing this, Yi Xian felt his heart ache. Although only 10% was wasted, he still felt that it was a pity. Ding! As the host has helped his disciple obtain 12 comprehension value points, the host has received a randomized 4x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained 48 comprehension value points. Ding! As the host has helped his disciple obtain 23 comprehension value points, you have received a randomized 2x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained 46 comprehension value points. As soon as the system's notifications concluded, his disciples' comprehension values underwent significant changes. U comprehension value. 257 innate bone value. 337 Li Qin Yan comprehension value. 320 innate bone value. 104 Yi Xian comprehension value. 488 innate bone value. 519 It seems that it won't be long before my comprehension value surpasses 500. Seeing this, Yi Xian smiled. He had spent no effort at all, and not only had his two disciples' comprehension value points increased, but he had also received quite a few comprehension value points from the system's rewards. It was simply too satisfying. As for the spirit-absorbing flower, Yi Xian did not know if his comprehension value points would exceed 500 after refining it, but he would never try it. To maximize the benefits, he would have to give it to his disciples to receive a better system reward in return. If he did not use the system as a cheat and absorbed it himself, would that not be a waste of God's gift? Besides, given his current comprehension value, he was not lacking the tiny amount of comprehension value points he would gain from refining it. The most urgent task now is to make Li Qin Yan an alchemist before the start of the competition between the great sections. At that time, I can also perform spiritual power infusion on you. Yi Xian was thinking to himself. The things that he had previously used on a disciple could be used again after a month. Yi Xian then made Li Qin Yan and Yu cultivate separately, while he went over to the fifth mountain peak of the Qinyan sect. This was the mountain peak of the third elder of the Qinyan sect, Situ Yufei. His cultivation had already reached the middle stage of the Shudan realm, and he was a true alchemist. If Yi Xian wanted to guide Li Qin Yan to become a real alchemist, he had to learn the related alchemy knowledge himself. Situ Yufei was a third-rank alchemist, but he was just an ordinary third-rank alchemist. He could only refine some ordinary third-grade pills. His failure rate of refining high-quality third-grade pills was quite high. However, Yi Xian did not care about this. After all, he just wanted to learn knowledge related to alchemy. It did not matter what his failure rate was. When Situ Yufei learned of Yi Xian's purpose, he welcomed the latter with enthusiasm. Yi Xian was a perfect cultivator in their eyes. He was young, talented, and powerful. Now, the disciples he took in crushed all of the other young cultivators of the Qinyan sect. When they thought of Yi Xian, they felt inferior. However, now it seemed that Yi Xian was not perfect either. There were also areas that he was not good at. Situ Yufei found some alchemy books and handed them to Yi Xian. He first had Yi Xian read them carefully. If there was anything he did not understand, he could ask him at any time. Ha ha ha, Elder Yi, you have to study hard. Situ Yufei laughed. It is not so easy to become a real alchemist. Without years of studying, it is impossible to succeed. It's especially difficult for those who have never studied alchemy before. Situ Yufei stroked his beard and said with a smile. At the same time, he envisioned Yi Xian's discouraged expression when he failed to become a realm alchemist. If they could see Yi Xian suffer a little, they would feel much better. It could not be helped. This guy was always so fond of surpassing everyone. They both loved and hated Yi Xian. The so-called love was because Yi Xian was the youngest core formation realm elder of the Qinyan sect. The sect leader and most of the elders had seen him grow up. As for hate, it was because this guy's talent was too monstrous. From time to time, he would surpass them in one aspect or another. Compared to this monster, they felt like they were wasting their time, and it made them feel like trash. Third elder, I wonder how much time you spent to become a real alchemist? Yi Xian asked. He had naturally noticed Situ Yufei's intentions, but he did not expose the latter. Chapter 80. This guy must be feeling embarrassed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 80. This guy must be feeling embarrassed. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, 1 year. Situ Yufei looked at Yi Xian, and then slowly raised a finger and said proudly. In the Tian Yuan continent, only cultivators who had reached the true essence realm had the qualification to become alchemists. After all, to refine pills, one had to extract the medicinal power from all kinds of natural treasures. This process consumed a lot of energy, and only true essence power, or spiritual power of a higher level than true essence power, was capable of doing that. After a cultivator stepped into the true essence realm, their own spiritual sense would also become much stronger, and the degree of their control over the temperature of the flame would also become more precise. An excellent alchemist had to be able to accurately control the temperature of the flame at various points of the refining process. Of course, some people could also become alchemists when they were in the Qi transformation realm. However, they would need to rely on many auxiliary tools and artifacts, otherwise it would be very difficult to refine a medicinal pill. The most important thing was that, without the support of true essence power, even if one could successfully refine a medicinal pill, it would not be of high quality. Other than this, there was also an extremely harsh condition for a cultivator to become an alchemist. That was that the cultivator must possess both fire and wood attributes. As everyone knew, cultivators of that era possessed different attributes. The most common attributes were the 5 elements. Other than this, there were also some rarer attributes like the lightning and ice elements. However, among many cultivators, there would also be people without attributes. Generally speaking, one's attributes were innate. Although one could tamper with it a little, doing so was almost as difficult as ascending to heaven. As for Yi Xian, he was 1.10,000 person who had no attributes, which also meant that he was very malleable. However, his cultivation of the Thunder Sword control technique and the 3000 Thunder Sword technique, gave birth to the lightning element in his Dantian. Every one of his attacks would contain a trace of lightning. It was extremely overbearing. However, Yi Xian's body did not possess the fire and wood attributes. Thus, it was undoubtedly difficult for him to become a real alchemist. In other words, he could only become an alchemist if he had the fire and wood attributes. However, he was not the one who needed to become an alchemist. Li Qinyan possessed the dual spirit physique and also had the fire and wood attributes, so this limitation was no hindrance at all. Now, he only needed to study and master alchemy from a knowledge standpoint, and then pass that knowledge on to Li Qinyan. As long as she could become an alchemist, he would be able to use the system to earn some sort of reward that would allow him to become an alchemist. However, Situ Yufei did not know this. Therefore, in his eyes, no matter how hard Yi Xian worked, he would not be able to become an alchemist. 1 year. That's not too bad, right? Yi Xian then took the related alchemy books and returned to Lingjiu Peak. Situ Yufei looked in the direction that Yi Xian had left and burst into laughter. What did he mean by saying 1 year was not too bad? Did he not know that those who could become alchemists within a year were all geniuses? If this guy did not hit a wall, he would not realize how difficult it was to become an alchemist. Although his talent was extremely monstrous and had suppressed the entire younger generation of cultivators in the Great Qian dynasty, it was not so easy to become a real alchemist. Yi Xian, I'll be waiting for a good show. The sect leader and the other elders all learned that Yi Xian wanted to become an alchemist. Haha, that's really interesting. Hee hee. I'll finally be able to see this guy get discouraged. Just thinking about it makes me happy. When the time comes, this guy will try to refine pills unsuccessfully. His face and scalp will turn black from the resulting furnace explosion. That will be something to remember. This guy is really too much. With such monstrous talent, why doesn't he just focus on cultivation? Lin Qin could not help but feel speechless. Other people could only dream of possessing such monstrous talent, yet this guy not only did not focus on cultivation, but also wasted his time trying to learn alchemy. Was this not a waste of God's gift? Yi Xian's attributes had already been tested a long time ago. His dantian did not contain the fire and wood attributes. Unless there was a fortuitous encounter somewhere down the road, it was absolutely impossible for him to become an alchemist. This guy had already reached the core formation realm. Why was he thinking about becoming an alchemist? Thinking this, everyone was puzzled. If his talent had been average, and he had encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation, it would be understandable if he wanted to spend time on the path of alchemy. However, this guy's talent was so monstrous. Was this not a complete waste of time that could be better spent cultivating? Of course, no one stopped Yi Xian or dissuaded him. They knew Yi Xian's character very well. The latter still knew his limits. He would give up once he knew he could not do it. Moreover, they wanted to see his dusty face. Time passed quickly and, soon, a few days had passed. During this time, Yi Xian had been studying alchemy seriously. If he stumbled upon anything that he did not understand, he would run over and ask Situ Yufei. Situ Yufei was not impatient. He answered each question and taught Yi Xian alchemy based on his own accumulated experience and knowledge. He explained in great detail about the medicinal efficacy of spiritual herbs and treasures, and the precise temperature control required to refine them. Every time he got his question answered, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He was completely intoxicated with alchemy. Given his comprehension value, he could memorize all of the knowledge in the books from just a single glance, and could understand most of it. He had already reached a certain level of mastery. Although his dantian did not possess the dual attributes of fire and wood, he often mentally simulated the refining process. Soon, 3 days passed. Yi Xian could be said to have learned all of the relevant knowledge he needed about alchemy. At least in terms of theoretical knowledge, he was not inferior to Situ Yufei. "Aren't you going to refine pills?" Seeing that Yi Xian was about to leave, Situ Yufei looked confused. This guy had been working on studying alchemy for so many days, but now that he had finally finished learning the theoretical knowledge, he gave up on refining pills. "There's no rush. I'll give you a surprise when it's time." Yi Xian did not explain. He tricked Situ Yufei into giving him a furnace and went straight back to Lingjiu Peak. Situ Yufei looked in the direction that Yi Xian had left and could not help but smile. He had not expected that this guy would be afraid of making a fool of himself. He probably wanted to take the alchemy furnace back and refine pills privately. Forget it. This guy must be feeling embarrassed. I'd better study the pill formula properly. The most important thing now was to study how to refine the soul-returning pill. As soon as Yi Xian returned to Lingjiu Peak, he called Li Qinyan over. "Girl, do you want to be an alchemist?" Yi Xian got straight to the point.